Good evening. I'm Alicia Menendez, and we begin this hour with the adage, you reap what you sow. You may remember back in 2022 when Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee posted this three-word tweet, elevating who they deemed to be the leaders of their party: Kanye West, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump. While Republicans have since come to disavow Kanye West, they have gone all in on the other two, falling in line with each of the extreme actions being taken by Trump, by Musk, and by their Doge since January 20th. Republicans own this, and they know it is not good. There is a reason why Republicans have been told to cower from town halls and facing their constituents who are absolutely enraged at what is being done all across this country. We saw late yesterday the most recent of these destructive actions with the mass firings at the Department of Education, effectively gutting the agency with the ultimate goal of erasing it entirely. The GOP's fearless leader will say he is shaking things up. In reality, he is screwing things up. Just this morning, a federal judge in Baltimore who heard arguments on the legality of the mass firings of federal employees. The U.S. district judge appeared skeptical of the arguments made by the administration and suggested he could reverse those Doge terminations and grant a temporary restraining order that would bring the thousands of fired federal workers back into service. Joining me now is Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser, one of the many state attorneys general suing the Trump administration over the mass firings of federal workers. Sir, it is good to see you. Your sense of what we can expect to hear from this judge when he ultimately delivers his ruling?
My sense is this is yet another case. This is the seventh case I brought. The first six, we have preliminary relief orders already in place. This one involves required notice. What people need to understand about these federal employees and the level of outrage is so many people here in Colorado, across the U.S., were told with no notice your job is gone. That violates the law. There's a 60-day requirement. That's in there for a good reason, to give people a chance to adjust. One of my colleagues, Chris Mays, had a town hall in Arizona, and someone said, I worked at the VA. I provide critical therapy. I was told to leave immediately. My patients didn't know that they were losing me. There was no adjustment. Look at that throughout the government, the Veterans Administration, the Education Department. I know we'll talk more about what's happening there. When you look what's happening in Colorado, our national parks are a treasure, and people are being laid off, cut back. We're worried about people's access to our public lands. This is something the public is getting very concerned about. We just had town halls in Colorado twice in the last week, one virtual 5,000 people, one in person close to 2,000. People's voices are being heard. We're standing up and we're fighting back.
General Weiser, help me understand something, which is, so all these people get laid off. They exit the building. If they're in the building, they shut their laptops. If they work remotely, what happens if they're reinstated? Administratively speaking, how does any of that work?
This is a mess, because instead of doing something orderly with a scalpel, it's being done in a disorderly, non-strategic, and fairly haphazard way. People have heard about nuclear inspectors being fired only to be told, oh, no, we actually need you. Bird flu inspectors being fired, et cetera. And when you're going to tell people to come back after they've been fired, it's chaotic. Think about how much disruption is happening to critical services, air traffic controllers, and more. The American people are seeing up close in all the ways we rely on our federal government. We shouldn't have to learn that, because tragedies happen because key employees have been let go before people even know what they're doing.
You bring up the exact right point, which is, yes, there is the impact that it is having on the individuals who work at these organizations. There is the impact to the rest of us of the services that they work on not being rendered. I'm sure you saw the president was asked today whether he feels responsible for the fact that so many of these people are losing their jobs. And he said, sure, I do. I feel very badly, but many of them don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. When we cut, we want to cut, but we want to cut the people that aren't working or not doing good jobs. He told reporters during an Oval Office meeting with the Prime Minister of Ireland, we're keeping the best people. Is that your sense that they are, in fact, keeping the best people, that there is anything here that is based on performance, that that type of audit has even been completed, and that this is not just a mass firing?
There's no sense that there's any strategy, there's any assessment or any plan. In the 1990s, President Clinton and Vice President Gore did a very thorough assessment, a reinventing government initiative, which is valuable. It was well done then. Something like that could be done now, but that's not what's happening. What's being happening is employees are being willy-nilly let go, sometimes by what unit they're in. The Public Integrity section of the Justice Department investigates corruption. That's apparently being shuttered. The agency that handles financial aid at the Department of Education, helping people as they apply for and receive financial aid, is being shuttered. This is not happening because of an overall plan. It's being done in a way that is lacking care, and the American people are going to feel these harms. You are right. It's not just the workers. It's the harm to the public. It is all a travesty. It doesn't have to be this way. One could say, let's make government work better, sign me up for that. But what we're seeing is not about government work better. It's about disabling and dismantling government, often because of maybe a policy difference. And this is an important point, Alicia. This is not the executive's job to say, we don't like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Congress set up that agency. Only Congress can dismantle it. And yet we have an executive branch acting as if they get to make the laws, not only the requirement that they execute them.
Well, while he is busy dismantling those agencies, he is busy protecting Tesla dealerships. Just yesterday, he said he will label violence against those dealerships as domestic terrorism. Today, you had Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she sent a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, asking for an investigation into those incidents as domestic terrorism. Do you believe that these protests at Tesla dealerships meet the definition of domestic terrorism?
No definition that I can think of. First off, I've only heard about peaceful protests. And this is something that is very important. If someone does any violence, if someone destroys property or hurts somebody, they should be arrested. But if someone decides to protest because they're expressing their political point of view, for example, that the Department of Government Efficiency, as it's so called, or DOGE, is engaging in violations of our privacy, that's the right of every American to protest on your point of view in the way you see fit. And as long as you're doing so in a way that respects the law, you're in your First Amendment interests. Let me make another point about an attack on the First Amendment, because we also saw today a judge rule that an executive order that sought to take down a law firm, target a law firm based on its political views and who they represent. The judge said that order was un-American, unconstitutional, and a threat to the First Amendment and the very core commitment of the rule of law. We need to respect this basic foundation of our republic. People have the right of free speech. People have the right to hire lawyers, and the government should not be trying to pick the viewpoints they like in the marketplace and silence other ones. The cure for speech you don't like is more speech. If you love Tesla, then say how great Tesla is. If you love Doge, say how great Doge is. But don't try to criminalize or punish people for expressing their point of view.